Welcome to the dungeon with Harlan and Andrew.
Hello, hi, everyone, to this week's episode of The Dungeon. Thank you so much for being here. This is a game master talk show where we talk about the art of game mastering. It's The Dungeon, and I'm Harlan Kelly.
Game mastering.
Yep. And I'm Andrew Orbital.
And today, this week's guest is Shando, the D&D mom.
Hello.
From the Bard Community College Twitch stream and the DM of the Mist, right?
No. Try again.
No, I did the same thing.
It's another 4-letter word.
I did the same thing with your with Frank last week, where I was like, okay, don't say the thing, and then I said the thing because I tripped it.
It is called The Rift.
The Rift.
The Rift.
Mm-hmm.
I even had it written down, and I don't want to mess with my settings to try and get it in that panic. So anyway, apologies.
That's like our new thing. It used to be that we'd start the stream muted, but now I like that's our new thing.
Now I just say our guest's show wrong and embarrass myself. Well, thank you for coming on here anyway.
Mm-hmm.
My pleasure.
We have the same question that we start off with every time for our guests, and then we can kind of jump in and talk more about your show afterwards. But can you tell us, how did you get your start with tabletop role-playing games?
Well, long ago, in the before time. I don't know how old you are, but I'm certainly older than you. I didn't play RPGs in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play D&D until I was a grown ass adult. I had a friend named Jeff who really wanted to run a D&D game. He used to do it in college and felt the need, and so he offered to run one for me and my spouse at the time and some other friends. It was 3.5, and I just loved it. I loved it. And we played that campaign for 6 years. And I dabbled in other campaigns in that time. But that was how I got into it. My friend Jeff taught me how to play. And he still runs the game for me today. It's a different game. It's a 5th edition game, but I still play with Jeff. That was about 12 years ago. Yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome. So I feel like that's a very common story that we've heard on here, is that, so I have this friend who hooked me into it, and we're still friends today, which is kind of one of the beautiful parts about it. I started DMing for that same reason. I moved from Indiana to Denver, and I was like, this is a great way to hang out with some friends online. So I was like, hey guys, here's this thing.
It is definitely makes fast friends very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as a social activity, spending 4 to 10 hours a session playing and chatting with each other, I think, I think you become friends without even knowing it, because you're solving problems together and adventuring together and having these like little fake arguments together and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it makes.
And I think it depends on your play style too, but like I do specifically RP heavy. My preferred games are RP heavy games, and the preferred games that I run are RP heavy games, and that's a lot of emotional labor. Even it's pretend people, but you're still doing that work with other people. You learn a lot about each other pretty quickly, even if it's not, because there's a little bit of you in every character that you make, right?
Yeah.
At least for me, that's like a universal experience, right?
Yeah, and even if you
got to start from what you know.
Yeah, and even if you're running a character that is like very unlike yourself, you're still kind of like talking about yourself a little bit in the way that you run them. or how they interact with the world, being this like, you know, maybe it's a shithead character, or you're playing like somebody who is kind of intentionally evil. You're still able to talk about why, like if you're creating this evil character, like what you think is evil then, and how this person interacts with the world and how they would interact with the world. So I just agree.
Or you're living vicariously, you know. So I'm not a chaotic neutral person in my day-to-day life, but there is a lot of appeal to me playing a character like that, because I get to do the things that I sometimes want to do but cannot do because they're felonies. And even when you're playing a character that is like really far out there compared to who you are in your day-to-day, even that says something about you.
Yeah,
that shows the people that you're playing with another element of you that you would be interested in playing that character. There's some motivation there's some enjoyment that you're getting out of it, by pretending to be that person.
So what's one that do you have an example in your mind of a character you've played where maybe in that moment or afterwards you're like, I was kind of working this out or whatever?
I like every single one. I mean, I don't know. I've played the whole gamut of everything. I'm more of a caster main, specifically like a wizard main. Generally, if I'm going to be in a longer form game, not just a one shot, I generally like wizards. But yeah, I have a wizard, a blade singer, who is a charlatan, who is actually a woman who murdered somebody and is pretending to be a man, and is in a thieves guild and masquerades as a children's party magician. And he is a coward, and he is a bastard, and I get enjoyment out of being that person, about having secrets that nobody knows, and running away when that is not the ideal thing to do in a situation, and working through those tensions with other people, because he's just gonna do what he's gonna do without any sort of social obligation. And I have quite a bit of social obligation on my shoulders in my day-to-day life. Sometimes you just want to say like dilly gaff and just walk away from your responsibilities. So that's just one guy I'm playing right now.
Yeah, I've been thinking about my kobold. I played a kobold rogue for a while that was just would look for any reason to gamble, but not just like in a game, but with like anytime a risk could pay off, at high stakes, he was down for it. And I kind of like, it took me maybe 6 months to realize. I was like, oh yeah, I was like trying to tamp down some wild tendencies of my youth and just like, go to bed on time and things like that. And so it's just been like funny, like seeing myself in the future, like a thing I worked out in the past with this D&D character. So that's great.
Yeah.
Here's a question for both of you. This is something we haven't really chatted with any dungeon masters very much, but I was curious if either of you, when it comes to player alignment, have you ever been strict with a player, and checked them for RPing out of their alignment? Has that ever been a situation that's come up for you, or do you just let them go nuts with it? It's like because I've played with people who they put down lawful good on their character sheet. They're like newer to the game. They'll put down lawful good on their character sheet, and then they're just like stabbing people constantly and stealing from people. And I'm, I in the game I allow it, but then I'm like, oh, you can change that alignment like anytime you want.
Well,
but I was just curious how strict you two were with that.
I mean, it depends, I guess, on a couple of factors. I wouldn't say I'm strict so much as like there are consequences for doing that, right? So if you are a cleric and your god is, their alignment is lawful good, you can really get like one step away from that at any point before like you're cut off from the powers that you're getting from that god, or if you had like a celestial patron as a warlock or something. If you're doing the complete opposite of what, you know, your deity or whatever expects of you, then you're going to have to explore some other options of where you're going to get your power from. uh, I work with kids. I run a D&D club for children. I have, you know, a chaotic good paladin player character in that game, and he just wants to murder everybody all the time. And like I have to have a conversation about, you know, if that's the kind of character you want, maybe you should pick a different class. He's like, no, I really want divine smite.
Well, that's such a cool, like, you know, monsters are pushback in D&D. It's like, oh, if you win this treasure, then the world's going to push back against you by there's like things living in this dungeon or whatever. And that can be such a good way. I think that's just like, just hearing you talk about that, I got excited about like, oh, that's an interesting way to push back against this kid who's like processing the game and learning the game, that like, oh, your actions have consequences that aren't just like, oh, I'm going to see if I hit or not. It's like, oh, the choices you make, the world is kind of reacting to you in that way. So that's just I really like that. It's like a cool way of thinking about the world.
Yeah.
Reacting.
And like having a lockdown alignment at the beginning, you know, I have a friend who sees pretty differently from me in regards of like whether or not that's a good thing. I think it's really helpful when you're trying to decide what the initial motivations of your character are, to kind of like pick somewhere on that chart. But like obviously you're going to grow from that point, and circumstances and contexts change, especially if you're in a long-term campaign, and maybe what, you know, the behaviors that you engaged in before that were rewarding for your character cease to be rewarding. Well, you're going to do different behaviors, and those behaviors are going to be what really is the indicator of your character's alignment.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
The
I think
growing
cool
is fun.
it changes.
Yeah, exactly.
But you have to acknowledge that the change is happening. You can't be stabby murder hobo and be like, yeah, I'm awful good.
Right, because you're just not listening to your
person now.
Yeah, you're not listening to your character. You're not listening to the story that's happening around you then. But if you know, if that kid says, well, I'm going to break my oath as this paladin, I'm going to take my divine smite from somewhere else because I do want to murder all these people. That's such an interesting character, like, and is letting the kid process that or whatever. So I think you're very right. Totally. I want to make sure and talk about, though, the Rift has a very interesting and unique setting. It's your homebrew setting. And I think, you know, we talked to Frank, his game is also on Bard Community College last week, about the uniqueness of his modern setting, and yours is post-apocalyptic, but also, you know, pretty fantasy, in line with fantasy. It's just post-apocalyptic as well. And I'd love to hear how you feel like, maybe as a player character, you create this character that is an extension of yourself, but how do you feel like this world, homebrew world you've created, is an extension of what you're thinking about or working on in your head as well?
Yeah, there's the like on the surface answer of, I just really like dystopia and as a genre in general, and also horror is another genre that I enjoy quite a bit. So I like those kinds of stories where there is this like other, you know, force that is beyond something that you can control, that is determining the context that's all around you. But also I just needed a place that I could showcase my anxieties about what the world could look like without good people.
Ooh, that's such a good answer. I just want to... Did you hear that, chat?
Yeah.
What the world could look like without good people. That was so good.
Thanks.
And what...
Sorry, I just felt excited when you said that, so I had to highlight that.
And yeah, that is a good way to sum up dystopia, or a post-apocalyptic world. In your world, are there player races available like in 5e, or is it basically all humans?
Oh, it's I try to reimagine all of the racial tropes. I'm not a big fan of how D&D historically has portrayed or described or pigeonholed the different player races that are available, including like, you know, the ability modifiers that come with them. And so I haven't even been using the regular racial bonuses that come or penalties that come with the races, you know, in raw. I use other third party source materials to determine that. And now Wizards is actually finally come out with a system where you can make those adjustments. Should have been there a long time
Yep.
ago. Let me know if I am not allowed to diss Watsy
No, go for
on
it.
this show.
Do it. Do what you need to.
Some people,
We're not weird about it.
okay.
Go for it.
Because
Yeah.
Watsy is notorious for quietly blacklisting people. But I've just made my peace with the fact that if they don't like me, then it's fine. But in my world, like all those tropes, the monstrous races, they're just null.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, I want there to be this entire technocratic society that is completely like arcane magic users and engineering. And I like goblins. So they're going to be goblins and also orcs. And that is going to be this like major superpower in the world. And a lot of the issues that the players come in contact with have to do with there's racial tension, but it's not inherent in, you know, this is a race that is an evil race, is written as an evil race, therefore everybody hates them. You know, racism as it comes up in the game is contextual based on the geographical history between two nations and the people that live there. And I think it's interesting to explore issues like that in the relative safety of like a D&D game, so we can look at things like objectively.
Yeah, because I mean, it is when you're taking apart the DNA of a lot of these things, it's like, oh yeah, of course there is going to be conflict between groups and communities over resources if resources are scarce. So especially in a post-apocalyptic world, it's like, cool, this crew of folks is banding together, this crew of folks is banding together, and there's only so many resources in this world. And then kind of like pulling that apart with like, oh, these people are from here and have this culture, and that's what that means, and this is why they're kind of sticking together. It's just a whole different act than like orcs are bad, you know?
Yeah.
Or like,
Yeah.
Is your world, do you track things like food and water like hardcore? Is it like that kind of grainy?
Yeah, they need
post-apocalyptic?
to have rations. Like money isn't really a thing. Like money is a thing, but like goods, services for barter and food are the primary currency of this world.
man,
Nice.
that's awesome. Because I mean, that's such a good, I feel like it's such an engaging way to use rations too, is it's not just like, you need to make sure that when you go from this town to this town, you have enough food to get there. It's like, no. There's not society or whatever. Like you have to.
And it's not even like it directly impacts the player characters so much, because we have a druid and we have a cleric, and they have the capability to make as much food and water as they need.
Yeah.
But what they do with that, you know, when they travel to a place that is low on supplies, like they've been able to get out of several tricky situations just by coughing up as many good berries as humanly possible.
Yeah, there you go.
Really, they've gotten out of like combat encounters by supplying places with food. Whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah, there was a very hungry landlocked Sawagan tribe that wanted to eat them. So they gave them food instead. They promised them more food later. They came back with food and you know, kept that promise. And it's, you know.
Man, I'm excited. I've been watching the first part of the Rift. I'm excited to get to that part now. So that's cool.
Yeah.
It just gets better and better. Like as everybody gets more comfortable, and I have more confidence because this is the first like of my own things that I have made that I have been streaming. I've streamed a bunch of other, modules and other RPGs and one shots, but this is like my baby. This is my child.
Yeah.
And I just want to see it thrive.
Yeah, so everyone's like, every TV show I think I've ever watched that is from the before everything was on Netflix vibe, it's like the first season's always we're figuring the show out thing, and then it's like, boom, here we go. This is the best season. So I say that with I feel like every stream I've ever watched, it's like, cool. For first like 5 episodes or so are people figuring it out, and then they're locked in, and it's cool. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
The thing about the Rift that's rough though is that it's got 4 players, and they love RP so much, which is one of the reasons I asked them if they'd like to play, because I also love RP so much. We just did the 8th episode. It has been 4 days of in-world games.
Yeah. Yep. I think we just did 3 sessions over like an hour, I think, because it was like a fight that got extended and then went into another fight. So
yeah, I always get really anxious. Have I planned enough for them? I don't want to be midstream and run out of things to do or provide for them. And no, they just talk the whole time.
That's good though. That's good. It's like when you can sit back and just watch.
I love it.
Yeah.
I just.
Those are my favorite moments as a DM too. When I have the chance to just be like, I'm like watching the show, in any game. I'm just like, oh, okay, you guys don't need me. You're telling your own story with these characters interacting. So.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay, we have a couple questions in the chat. Yeah, we should we need like a little sign, Andrew, that's like a drawing of your dogs or something. Andrew has 2 very large dogs, and sometimes they demand attention.
Yeah, they're. Yeah, I actually have 5 dogs over here right now, so it's a little wild. So we have a D20 roll table. If you want to roll, and we'll have a question from the roll table.
Oh boy, that's a cool dice too.
Thank you. They were a gift from Die Hard Dice.
Ooh.
Nice.
They donated 50 sets of dice to my D&D club.
Whoa, that's so cool.
That's awesome. Shout out. I'm gonna go buy some dice from them. I've been itching.
I've
so
bought them
awesome.
in the past, and they seem like a cool company.
Yeah, they're very, very generous. 19.
Ooh, all right.
19. This one, what would you say is your most memorable boss battle? And I guess it could be as a DM or player. I mean, if you have a DM one, that would be great, but if not, this is definitely the best. So this was a game that I used to play, not with Jeff. My DM's name is Craig, and the story of my character was that I was basically a barbarian chieftain in a like Scandinavian flavored island. I was essentially a Viking. And my brother wanted to usurp like the throne of our nation and challenged my character to this like duel to the death, and had made a pact with a dragon cult essentially for like sorcerer like powers, and ended up like wounding me very badly and taking my eye.
Oh boy.
So then my whole story arc is like a revenge arc. And her name is Inga Svanhilder. She was awesome. She dual wielded battle axes. This is 3.5 edition. The final huge battle of this game was that our party had allied themselves with a tribe of orcs to fight against the dragon cults
Let's
who
go.
had unleashed a red dragon.
Okay.
And so there's this dragon cult army and this orc army that are like fighting on this battlefield. And there's this giant red dragon that's like strafing everyone with fire. And I'm on the top of this hill in one-on-one combat with my brother. I had the wizard in the party enchant a glass eye with continual flame, and so I could flip up my eye patch and it would look like my eyeball was on fire, and it would give me bonuses to intimidation. And I scared the shit out of him, and then I crit, and then I confirmed the crit, and then I decapitated him.
Yes.
But the coolest part was that there was an orc bard who had used major image to essentially project our fight on this magical jumbotron on the top of the hill where the whole armies could see it. And when they watched me decapitate him, then they just retreated. And it was, I have chills just thinking about it. It was one of the greatest days of my entire life.
That's how you run mass combat, is you put it up on the Jumbotron. Let's
Put it
go.
on the Jumbotron.
What does confirm that crit mean? Does that just mean you showed them on camera?
So in 3.5, you'd roll 20 and that would be a critical hit. And then you could roll again. And if you rolled another 20, it's just dead.
Like a fatality. Oh, okay.
Oh, boy.
Nice. Yeah, I've never played 3.5.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, what are the odds of doing that are insane.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a good answer to that question.
Yeah,
I could like see the pain.
I got to drop that question out because we're never going to get an answer that epic again.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Not gonna lie.
I hope that someday you get someone buys you a commissioned portrait of just that moment, because I can just see it in my head immediately. It's like that old school art or whatever. It's so good.
I love it.
I miss Inga.
I'll just Gary pick a question out of chat here. I think we got time for one here at the end of the show. I think it's awesome. You have a D&D club for kids. I just started a D&D club at my daughter's school. It has been tough to get started, to put it mildly. Trying to help people create their characters over Zoom. Very difficult when they've never played and they don't want to use pre-gen characters. It's tough. But what has been your favorite moment DMing for kids?
They're just really funny. The ideas that they come up with are so out of the box. As adults, we have these really rigid ways that we've learned to think about things, and our problem-solving skills are cemented in these pathways that we've had the most success with over and over again. Kids don't have those pathways cemented yet. So the things that they come up with, solutions for problems, are far more creative than anything I've ever seen, an adult do. They think about the physics of how spells would work. I had this one kid who was trying to steer a boat that he was on. They were careening down this underground river, heading to like a waterfall, essentially, that like poured down into this cavern. And he wanted to fight against the waters, so he argued that he wanted to use like gust of wind like up against the wall of the cavern so that it would like swirl around the top like a Dyson vacuum cleaner and back around the other side and push him into the wall, slowing the boat down. And I said, yeah, you can do that. Of course you can do that. 100%.
Oh, that's good.
Stuff like that. Like granting sentience to a gelatinous cube and then making him part of your party and hanging out with him. Like that sort of stuff. Grown-ups are just gonna slice it up in a Jell-O salad.
I know, it's so hard I like try and untrain my brain from like doing. I like looking at the rules and being like, okay, this is how you use this. This is the way to use it. And because it's just more fun when you're doing that too. When you're just like going for something weird.
Yeah.
Totally.
If it sounds cool to me, and it's not totally breaking, raw
Yeah.
I
or
know. That's part
Ray,
of the
then
fun.
it's fine.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good. We should all be more like that.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah. I think it's helped me definitely as a player playing with kids and being like, oh yeah, you can kind of come at the problem by a totally crazy angle, and who knows, my payoff might kill yourself for reals in the game.
Yeah. I spoil my kids though in the D&D club. I really do.
Good.
I just want them to have a good time, and that's the most important part.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
doing the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want
my
to?
pleasure.
We've done the quick plug, of everybody check out the Rift. We will, we've posted the show on our socials already, so if you can't find it, get there. But
Is there
yeah,
anything else you want to plug?
Just our channel in general. So I'm the co-founder of the Bard Community College, and we have a lot of programming. So if you go check
Nice.
out our Twitch channel, you'll see we have the Witches of Woodside game, which Frank runs, which is D&D in a modern setting. We have my game, which is more traditional D&D, but in the post-apocalyptic setting. We run a lot of Mothership games, which is a sci-fi horror RPG. That is actually my favorite RPG. I like it better than D&D. Every other week we have a show called No Masters, which is GMless TTRPGs, and we feature every session a new one. We have a show called Super Splash of Color that is run by my Sudanese friend that focuses on like African folklore and expressly features POC players. And we also have a weekly show called One Shot 101, where we have social media people who are not in the D&D realm come and learn how to make characters and how to play D&D with us.
Nice.
So a lot of cool stuff.
God, I feel like now I want to talk to you
That's
for
awesome.
another 30 minutes with just that list of things. So
You let me know. I'll come back.
Let's come back and talk about Mothership, because that sounds amazing. And
I
all,
could talk
all the
on and on about Mothership.
yeah, I want to talk about
That sounds
African
awesome.
folklore
Mothership, right
too.
here.
That's so
Right
cool.
here. Right here.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
It's really good.
Well, to plug our meager channel, Arlen and I have one show. It's Better Than Heroes. It's every Monday night. If anybody wants to check it out, it's at 7 p.m. Pacific. It's Spelljammer-inspired setting. And this Saturday, we're running another special one-shot of the horror game 10 Candles. We did one earlier this
I've
month.
wanted to play that.
We
It's so
ironed
fun.
out the kinks, and we're going to do it again. It's going to be really fun. We've got two guest comedians, Kyle Kinane and Eliza Skinner. It's going to be...
You have Kyle.
Yeah, he's playing on Saturday.
What?
Yeah.
I love him. I have seen him 3 times.
Look at this. I love it. Well, come
my
hang out with
God.
us.
We got him last game, too. That was his first ever role-playing game. And he's
Really?
very, very, very concerned with his performance effort. Because I imagine for a comedian who's new to role-playing games, it feels like you just bombed harder than you ever bombed in your life, because you've just been there for a couple hours playing a character and like maybe every now and then saying something funny. But he did great. He was
Yeah.
great. He was very funny. And
His first time ever
He's
playing a
coming back.
tabletop role-playing
coming
game.
What
back.
time is that game at?
he's been bit by the bug.
We're playing at 6 o'clock
Mountain.
Mountain Time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
come
I'm
hang
running
out.
one
We got a
shot.
great crew.
I'm running One Shot 101 at that
Oh
time.
no! Well,
Well, we'll have it up. You can
we'll put it up. We'll put it up.
We had to tweak the system and iron out some of the aspects of the game, but it worked great last time. So I'm excited about this.
Oh my gosh.
They've got a fun crew. So
I'm ready.
that's
I've
the
got
Saturday night.
I've got the candle altar already going in my brain. The Hands of Fate are gonna be even better this time. It's gonna be a super good time. So,
Awesome.
I will
So
definitely
thanks everybody
catch
watching
that
in chat.
VOD.
Cool.
well, thank you. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Well,
I
cool.
think that's it.
Thanks
right?
for having me.
Yeah. Until next
for coming.
time. Yeah, I'm excited to watch more of your show and
No, for
Talk
real though. If
more.
you want to talk about non-D&D TTRPGs, like I'm here for it.
let's do it.
Cool.
You know.
Yeah.
I'll we'll put it in the calendar after this. We'll get you on just specifically to talk about some
Stack
other
of
ones
them
too.
right here on my desk.
Cool. Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you all.
Thank you all.
and-
Thanks for everybody watching.
Don't forget,
Tip your DM.
tip your DM. Tip your DM. Do it.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll
see
see you
y'all
next
later.
week.
Bye.
Bye.